Hello and welcome back to the 12th Man podcast. Um, Breaking news out from David Ornstein as of 20 minutes ago. Aston Villa have agreed a deal with Chelsea for the signing of Alejandro Garnacho on loan with a conditional obligation to buy. The decision to pursue Garnacho has been led by Aston Villa manager Unai Emery, who wanted to sign the winger last summer when he moved from Manchester United to Chelsea. The Argentina international is undergone a medical and is in Birmingham to complete the move. A 4-year deal is in place for Garnacho should the conditional obligation to buy clause be met and the move be made permanent. Now, we don't know what those obligations are. I'm sure they will come out at some point in the future. When we get more details on that, we can talk about that more. But I did want to touch upon the noise around signing Garnacho for Aston Villa. Now, Garnacho joined Manchester United as a 16-year-old during COVID with his family. So huge pressure from a 16-year-old joining Manchester United. I mean, he didn't feature in the senior team until he was 17. But this is a player in his professional career playing as a senior that hasn't really had consistency. Now, he made a fair amount of appearances under Erik ten Hag. But this is a guy who's had Erik ten Hag at Man United. You could argue how toxic it was around Manchester United at the time when Erik ten Hag was in charge. He joined Man United at a really difficult time, and they weren't doing amazingly. And then also on top of that, Ruben Amorim, he when he took over after ten Hag was sacked, and then there was a brief interim spell for Ruud van Nistelrooy as well, and then he's moved on to Chelsea. Under Enzo Maresca, and then he's got sacked. And then you've got Liam Rosner and Callum McFarlane as interim as well. So this is a guy who's 22 years old with huge bags of potential, moved to England during COVID with his family, age 16, and has just never really had any consistency around managers. Now, I know managers don't tend to stay at clubs for huge periods of time if history were to repeat itself, but this is a player with huge bags of potential. And, there's been loads of noise online of people saying they aren't happy with that. And everybody is entitled to their opinion. But anybody who follows me on Twitter knows that I always try and be Mr. Optimistic. And I do always try and find a positive and a negative. And I just think this is a player who is a signing who Unai Emery wants, which is, something that's massively, massively important. If this is something that's coming from the recruitment team and not from Unai himself, it's a bit of a different conversation. But we know that Unai loves a redemption arc for a loan signing. Obviously, it didn't really work out for Sancho. Marcus Rashford, I would say, had a successful loan at Aston Villa. But I think it's really important to understand that we shouldn't listen to the noise that's online and people who've got, I've got friends who are Manchester United fans. His attitude's terrible. There's no work ethic. He's going to be a failure for your club. We had the exact same thing with multiple signings. And I'll use Yuri Tillemans as an example. Leicester fans, his legs have gone. He's going to be rubbish for you. When arguably he's been one of our best players throughout his tenure at Villa. You could say saying about Luke Digne from Everton fans, saying he'd be no good for you. There's always loads of noise around, these players aren't good, their attitude's terrible. And this is a lad who has obviously made some mistakes in his career at a young age. And I'm not saying that people won't get behind Garnacho when he signs for Villa, because it's happening now, it's out there. And I'm not saying people won't get behind him. People will get behind him, but ultimately people aren't happy about the signing. And this is a lad who's made some wrong choices in his life decisions. And I think everybody, especially at a young age, should get a redemption arc. They shouldn't have their past used against them. So I really think that he's going to come in and be massively important. And ultimately, I think he's going to be a fan favourite down the line. There's some conditions that need to be met. And I hope it's more than just appearances. I hope there's some real incentives in there in terms of, to do X or Y in terms of goals, assists. I hope some of those things are in there. And I hope they are performance related as opposed to appearance related. That would be a massive one for me there. But this is a player who's just had some inconsistencies he's never really had. I think Ten Hag is the manager who he's been under the most, which was at the younger part of his career. He's made some bad decisions, and now he's got a manager under him who will be strict and firm and keep him under his wing. We know how Unai feels about his players. When asked about Yuri Tillemans in an interview, he referred to him as his son. This is the level that Unai gets with his players. He spends a substantial amount of time with them on and off the field. And I really think that Garnacho coming in with an open mind, and Unai will know about these things that have happened with Garnacho, and obviously it's been led by him, and he was interested before he went to Chelsea when he was still at Man U. He would have been aware of these things going on, and ultimately that hasn't changed his decision or wanting Garnacho at Villa. And I think there's so many players at the club. So Garnacho played for Spain under 18s, and then I think he went over to Argentina at senior level. And we've got an abundance of that. And you've got Emi Buendia, you've got Emi Martinez, you've got Pau Torres. You know, familiar people around the dressing room. And I think that's going to be equally as important. And Unai Emery is no nonsense. And I think I read an article somewhere where Jacob Tanswell, I think it was Jacob or John, I can't remember who it was. One of them had said that Unai's never had to fine a player due to things they're doing. He's not really that bothered of what people do outside in their personal life, as long as they're performing inside the club. And ultimately, he's got the right person behind him to guide him. I think he's got massively senior figures, especially from Argentina and Spain, with Pau Torres and Emi Martinez to put an arm around him. And, you know, John McGinn, Tyrone Mings, these types of senior figures around the club who can put an arm around him and ultimately keep him in line. I don't think he's a player who's going to cause trouble. I think those days are behind him. And I really think this is a chance for him. He's going to be playing Champions League football. It's an exciting time. It's an exciting time to support Villa. And Garnacho's always been a problem when he's played against us. He's always been an absolute pain in the backside. So this isn't me saying that people's negative opinions are wrong, but ultimately I think there's a redemption arc in this player, and he's young enough for it to not have a hindrance on his career and not be a highlight of his career. And he has the opportunity to turn that round now with a fresh start. And with Chelsea as well, we can't, I don't think it's fair for us to use Chelsea as an example, because Chelsea is just carnage. Anything that Blue Co touches, I don't want to say everybody who that they've signed has been rubbish, because, you know, Cole Palmer's had a great season, not so much in the season just gone, but the 24-25 season, Cole Palmer was class for Chelsea. But things are chaotic at Chelsea. They just throw money at every problem and put plasters constantly over their problems, and never actually fix the problem. And I think Chelsea will be good under Xabi Alonso this season. But Blue Co don't have the greatest track record with players in terms of that they just chuck money at the problems. And Garnacho might have been one of those players where they chucked money at that problem. And I think Gittins as well, Biden Gittins, I think he was another winger who came in and it hasn't worked out, and they're looking to offload as well. And that must be difficult for a player's confidence. So I hope Garnacho's had the right chats with Unai Emery, and I hope that we can get behind him, and everyone will get behind him on game days. But ultimately, we've just got to come to terms with that Alejandro Garnacho is signing for Aston Villa. And I will absolutely be behind him. I will absolutely be posting compilations on Twitter comparing him to who knows. But I really think this is a player that's going to come good. He's exciting. He's young. I hope the attitude-related stuff and things that have happened off the picture are behind him, and he's learned his lesson. You know, before we can be old and wise, we have to be young and stupid. You know, I know all about that side of things. But yeah, I think it's a really exciting time for us, especially in the transfer window. Our window went from nothing to everything. You know, this time last week, the Tillemans stuff was going on and everything was a bit up in the air. But I think this is a sensible signing for Unai. I really think he'll come good. He's definitely got goals and assists in his locker. I think he'll be great out wide, and his pace is something that is exciting to watch. He has bursts of pace, and he's absolutely rapid. So I really hope that fans can see past the the things that have happened in the past, and that's where they should be left. And hopefully this is a fresh start and a turning page, and I really hope, and I think he will. I think he'll be ready for a new chapter, and what a better place to do that than to come to Villa Park. And I hope he's had the right conversations with people who've come on loan. Rashford would have been at Man United when he was. I'm sure they would have had conversations about what Aston Villa was like, and I'm sure that would have contributed into him giving the nod to joining us. So he's joining Villa at an exciting time with a 4-year obligation to buy, which is massive. A long contract, and I think we'll see some real magic from him this season. I really do. And again, we're reinforcing in the attacking side. We've definitely needed a winger on the left, and I think he's going to be great for us. So yeah, really hope this is a redemption arc. Really hope the loan pays off, and really hope we go on to buy him after a successful season, and him helping us push on through the domestic cups, through the Champions League, and ultimately getting Europe again. This time by the end of the 26-27 season. So I'm excited. I know not everybody's feelings are the same, and everybody's opinion is valid. Everyone, I understand, people might think he's a bad egg for the dressing room, but I think these days are behind him. I haven't really heard anything about attitude related stuff since he's been at Chelsea. That was all the Man United stuff. But again, Man U were at a point of absolute chaos when he was there. But yeah, I think he's going to come really good. Let me know your thoughts. I really hope people can see the light with him, and I know everyone will get behind him when he's on the pitch. But ultimately, in the minute, there are some fans that aren't happy with that. But yeah, I think he's going to come good. Massive, massive signing for us, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see him get started, and I'm very excited to see him in claret and blue. I'm very curious to see what number he gets. I'm kind of hoping. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what number he's going to go for, but I really hope that this is his redemption arc on loan, and then hopefully moves on to a successful permanent spell with us in 12 months' time. So yeah, just wanted to come in and give some thoughts on the people who weren't massively fond, and talking about his past and things that have happened. But ultimately, attitude aside and things that have happened in the past, there is an absolute player in there, and he's pacey. He's capable of goals, capable of assists, and I really think that Unai Emery will get the best out of him. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. And if you could, like and subscribe, get that subscriber count up on our road to 2,000 subscribers. We are slowly creeping up on there. So if you could subscribe, if you're enjoying the content, I'd really appreciate that. So from the 12th Man podcast, I will see you. I'll be doing another episode, recording another episode tomorrow night. It's a surprise episode with a special guest of somebody, if you're around in the Villa Spaces days, a familiar voice from the Villa Spaces days will be joining me for an episode, which will be released on Friday morning. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But yeah, for now, it's for me. It's see you later, and a massive up the Villa.